The forest was dark, filled with strange sounds. Birds didn't sing here. No sunlight touched the ground, just shadows and silence. Ryan, a human scavenger, walked slowly through the thick trees. His boots crushed dry leaves as he stepped carefully, over roots and broken branches. His scanner beeped softly, searching for lost tech or energy sources. He had explored many alien planets, but this one, Valaris 9, felt different. Cold. Lonely. Suddenly, he heard it. A cry. Soft. Weak. Not an animal. He stopped again. There it was. A whisper, like someone trying to scream but barely able to breathe. He looked around, eyes sharp. The sound was coming from deeper in the forest. Ryan's heart pounded. He drew his small laser knife and moved forward step by step. After a few minutes, he saw something. At the base of a twisted ancient tree was a figure. It was a girl, an alien girl. She was chained tightly to the trunk, metal cuffs around her wrists and ankles. Her arms were above her head, her body limp, her head hanging down. Her skin was pale blue with silver veins glowing faintly. Her long white hair was tangled and full of leaves. Her clothes were torn and soaked in mud and blood. Ryan froze. Was it a trap? He scanned the area. No movement, no signs of recent activity. Just this girl, tied like a forgotten animal. He took a slow step forward. The girl's head lifted slightly. Her eyes opened, two glowing silver orbs. She stared at him. No fear, no anger. Just pain. "Can you hear me?" Ryan asked quietly. She didn't speak, but her lips trembled. He walked closer and knelt beside her. "What happened to you?" Still no answer. Ryan looked at the chains, strong alien metal. Old, rusty. Whoever had tied her here wanted her to die. He touched the chain and looked back into her eyes. "If I cut these, you won't attack me, right?" Her lips moved. A whisper escaped. Please." That was enough. Ryan activated his laser knife and began cutting. The metal hissed as it melted away. First one wrist, then the other. Then her ankles. She didn't scream. She didn't move. Just watched him, tears falling from her eyes. When the last chain fell, her body dropped forward. Ryan caught her. She was freezing, light as a feather, bones showing through her skin. She had no strength left. "Easy," he whispered. "I've got you." He wrapped his jacket around her and lifted her into his arms. Her fingers curled into his shirt weakly. She was shaking, but she didn't fight. She trusted him. Ryan walked fast, back through the trees. The forest felt colder now, like something was watching. But he didn't stop. By the time he reached his small shelter, a metal cabin hidden near a rock wall, the sun had nearly set. He placed her gently on the bed and covered her with a thermal blanket. Inside the light, she looked even worse. Bruises covered her body. One of her legs was swollen. She hadn't eaten in days. He mixed warm nutrient broth and brought it to her. "Try this," he said softly. She looked at the bowl, then at him. He sipped from it first, showed her it was safe. Only then did she take a sip. Small, careful. Her hands trembled, but she kept drinking. Ryan watched her, heart heavy. Who would do this to someone? "Don't worry," he said. "You're safe now." She didn't answer, but her eyes closed slowly. A soft breath escaped her lips. She fell, asleep. Ryan sat beside her, alert, but his mind was racing. Why was she chained to a tree? Who left her there to die? And most importantly, what would happen now that he had set her free? The cabin was quiet. Only the sound of wind outside touched the metal walls. Inside, Ryan sat in a chair beside the bed, eyes half closed but alert. The alien woman, still nameless, slept under the blanket, her breathing slow and shallow. Her face was calm now, no longer twisted in pain. But her skin remained cold. Her body was still weak. Ryan had done what he could. cleaned her wounds, wrapped her leg, and gave her warmth. He had even placed his old blaster on the table, just in case. Not because he didn't trust her, but because he didn't trust the ones who left her behind. When morning came, Rayan stepped outside to collect water from the nearby stream. The sun peeked through the clouds. He took a deep breath, but when he returned, she was gone. The blanket lay crumpled. The door was wide open. Footprints led into the woods. He dropped everything and ran. "Wait, you're not strong enough," he shouted into the trees, but the forest stayed silent. Rayan followed the footprints, small and light. She was barefoot. He could tell from the shape. The trail curved, slow and unsure, like she was limping. She didn't run far. Just 20 minutes into the trees, he found her. She was kneeling by a tree, holding a branch for support. Her shoulders shook. She wasn't crying, but she looked lost, like a bird too scared to land. Rayan approached slowly. "You left," he said softly. She turned her head but didn't speak. "I gave you food, a blanket. I helped you," he said. Still nothing. Rayan sighed and knelt beside her. "You're not a prisoner anymore. You don't have to run." Finally, she whispered, "No, safe." Rayan blinked. "What?" "No, place safe," she said again, her voice shaking. "Not for me." Her words were broken but clear. She didn't believe in safety, not anymore. Rayan didn't know what to say. She had been hurt badly, left to die. Her chains weren't just on her body, they were still around her heart. "Come back with me," he said quietly. "You don't have to stay, but you need to heal first." She looked at him. Her silver eyes shimmered in the weak light. Then slowly she nodded. He helped her up and carried her again. This time she didn't resist. Back at the cabin, she ate a little more, drank more water, but she didn't talk much. The next few days passed in silence. She moved only when necessary, sat in corners, watched the door constantly. At night she didn't sleep unless Rayan dimmed the lights and sat across the room, showing he wouldn't hurt her. Rayan didn't ask questions. He didn't touch her unless helping. He let her come back piece by piece. Then, on the fourth day, something changed. Rayan came back from foraging and the cabin was empty again. But this time there were no footprints, no open door, just gone. Rayan searched the woods. He called her, waited by the tree where he first found her. Nothing. She had vanished, and this time, she left nothing behind. Days passed. Rayan tried to forget, told himself she went home. Maybe someone found her. Maybe she was part of a bigger world he couldn't understand. But he knew the truth. She had escaped. Not just from the tree, but from him. He was just another shadow in her nightmare, until the sky changed. 1 week later, a bright streak tore across the sky like fire. It wasn't a meteor. It was too slow, too silent. That night, Rayan heard something outside. A soft knock, but not on the door, on the roof. He grabbed his blaster and moved cautiously. "Who's there?" he called. No answer. He climbed up, and there, bathed in the moonlight, stood the alien girl. Her wounds were gone. Her skin glowed softly. She wore a strange robe of thin silver cloth. Her hair was clean, flowing in the wind. She looked different, stronger, royal. "I return," she said. Rayan stared. "You came back?" She nodded. "I bring gift." She held out her hand. In her palm lay a small, glowing crystal. It pulsed with soft blue light. It wasn't a weapon, but it felt powerful. Rayan didn't reach for it. "What is this?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked into his eyes and said, "You broke chains. Now, I break yours." Rayan didn't understand yet, but something in her voice made his heart race. The real story had just begun. Rayan didn't sleep that night. After the alien woman gave him the glowing crystal, she disappeared once more into the forest, without a sound. She had come back only to hand him something strange, something warm to the touch, and then vanished like a ghost. Rayan held the crystal in his hands now, watching its soft pulse. Every few seconds it glowed brighter, then dimmer, like it was breathing. But it made no sound, no heat, no danger, and yet, something about it made him uneasy. He placed it on the shelf and tried to rest, but sleep never came. The next morning, Rayan stepped outside. The forest looked the same, dark, quiet, always watching. But something was off. The air felt heavier. And then he saw it. A circle of symbols burned into the dirt outside his cabin. They hadn't been there the night before. He crouched down. The symbols glowed faintly, the same blue as the crystal. He didn't recognize the language, but the pattern felt deliberate. A message, or maybe a warning. And in the center of the circle, his name, written in English. Perfectly. Rayan, his breath, caught. She had been here, or someone who knew him. But how? He looked around the trees. No movement, no sign of life. But he no longer felt alone. By nightfall, things only grew stranger. The wind changed direction. The forest animals were gone. Even the insects had gone silent. Then, just after sunset, the sky cracked open with a light he had never seen before. Not lightning. Not a ship. It was a long blue tear across the stars, as if space itself had been cut open. Rayan stood outside his cabin, eyes locked on the sky. The crystal on his shelf, inside, suddenly lit up bright. Rayan rushed back in. The crystal hovered now, floating above the shelf, humming with energy. A soft voice came from it. Not loud, but clear. He broke the chains. Rayan froze. It wasn't his voice, it wasn't hers either. It sounded ancient, alien, echoing like it came from far away. Now the bond awakens. Then the crystal dropped back to the shelf, dim and silent. Rayan stared, hands shaking. "What bond?" he whispered. "What does this mean?" No answer came. The next morning, strange marks appeared on Rayan's hand, faint glowing lines, as if the crystal had touched his skin in his sleep. They didn't hurt, but they itched, warm, alive. By afternoon, he heard movement again. Not footsteps, not voices. Wings. Something flew over the trees, fast, silent, then gone. Rayan's blaster stayed at his side now, always within reach. He began leaving the cabin only for food and water, but he never stayed away long. Something was coming. He could feel it. And then, on the third night, she came back. Not alone. Rayan woke to a low hum outside his door. He opened it slowly. There she was. The alien woman stood in the glowing circle outside, his cabin calm, silent. Behind her stood two tall figures wrapped in dark cloaks, faces hidden. One held a spear. The other had strange lights floating above their hands. Rayan stepped out, ready to speak, but she raised her hand to silence him. "I bring counsel," she said. "They wish to see the one who broke the chain." Rayan looked at the cloaked figures. Their eyes shimmered like stars. Their bodies didn't move like normal beings. Too smooth. Too perfect. One of them finally spoke. "You touched the bond," it said. "Now you carry it." Rayan took a step back. "What bond?" "I just cut some chains." "No," the other one interrupted. "You freed more than a prisoner. You awoke. What was sealed?" The crystal in his cabin glowed again. Rayan's heart thudded. "What did I do?" he asked. The alien woman stepped closer now, her voice soft. "You gave freedom to one who was cursed. That act can't be undone." She opened her palm again. A second crystal appeared, larger, darker, pulsing red this time. "This one follows. You now." she whispered. It will test you, protect you, or destroy you. Rayanne stared at it. What if I don't want any of this? You already chose, she said. When you broke the chains. Rayanne looked around at the glowing forest, the alien strangers, the sky that was no longer still, and deep in his heart he knew, the moment he freed her, he had stepped into something far bigger than he could ever imagine. Rayanne sat alone in his cabin. The forest outside glowed with quiet danger. Strange shadows passed near the windows at night, but nothing entered. Not yet. He had barely slept, since the meeting with the cloaked ones. The words still echoed in his head. You freed what was cursed. Now it follows you. And then she vanished again. The alien woman he had saved. The one whose name he still didn't know. She had given him a crystal that changed everything. It marked his hand with glowing lines. It showed him lights in the sky. It brought beings to his doorstep. And then she left. Again. Rayanne didn't know what she was. A queen, a weapon, a warning. But that night, on the 7th day since he had first cut her chains, she returned. It started with silence. The forest, which once buzzed with night sounds, became still. The wind stopped. Even the cabin's solar panels flickered. Then, a knock. Not at the door. On the roof again. Rayanne stood, slowly grabbing his blaster. He didn't climb up this time, he just whispered, I know it's you. A second later, she dropped down in front of the door, landing softly without a sound. But this time, she looked different. Very different. Her skin no longer looked bruised and weak. It now shimmered softly with glowing patterns. Her robe had changed, woven from silver thread flowing like liquid. A glowing circlet hovered above her forehead. Her white hair floated slightly as if touched by invisible wind. She was otherworldly. Rayanne opened the door. You look like royalty. She tilted her head. That word, yes, it fits. Rayanne stepped aside. Come in. She entered without hesitation this time. Her eyes scanned the cabin. She stopped when she saw the crystal still resting on the shelf, still glowing, still alive. You kept it, she said. I didn't know what else to do, Rayanne replied. It spoke, it moved, it burned my hand. She turned to him and held out her hand. In her palm was a second crystal, much smaller, but it pulsed in sync with the one Rayanne had. This one is mine, she said. Rayanne looked at the crystals. What are they? Bonds, she answered softly. In my world, we don't form connections with words. We form them with light. She stepped closer. You broke my chains. Now our light is linked. Rayanne's throat tightened. I didn't ask for that. She nodded slowly. But you acted when no one else did. You deserved it. Rayanne looked into her silver eyes, unsure if he should feel honored or cursed. Then she said the words that made his blood turn cold. My people will come for you. He stiffened. Your people? The ones who chained me, the ones who feared what I carried. They thought killing me would silence it. Rayanne took a step back. Why? What did you carry? She looked down, at the floor for a long time, then whispered, a future. She walked over to the shelf and placed her crystal beside his. Both glowed brighter. Then, slowly, they rose in the air, hovering side by side. Rays of blue and white light connected, them swirling in the air like vines of light. Rayanne watched, breathless. What is this? He asked. She turned to him and answered in a voice that no longer shook with fear. This is a vow, between your kind and mine. Then the crystals merged. A soft humming filled the cabin. For a moment, Rayanne saw strange images flash in his mind, stars being born, fires dying, alien cities in ruin, and then a vision of himself standing in armor beside the glowing woman, holding hands, facing a burning sky. Then it ended. The crystals were gone. Only silence remained. Rayan blinked, his head spinning. What just happened? She walked toward him, reached out and touched the glowing lines on his arm. They will find us now, she said, but we won't run. Then what do we do? She looked at him, serious and calm. We prepare. And in that moment, Rayan understood. He hadn't just saved her from a tree. He had been chosen, and now, he would stand between her world and the war that was coming. The wind howled louder than usual that morning. Rayan stood outside the cabin, scanning the forest edge with narrowed eyes. The alien woman, whom he still only called her, sat quietly inside, sharpening a bone-handled blade she had shaped from the woods days ago. She had not smiled since the night the crystals merged. Her movements were slower, focused, tense. Something was coming. Rayan felt it in his bones, and she knew it too. That afternoon, birds burst from the trees in a sudden swarm. No sound. No warning. Just a massive whoosh, then silence again. Rayan grabbed his blaster. She stepped outside behind him. They've found us, she said. He didn't need to ask how she knew, because right then, the ground began to vibrate. Faint, at first, like a distant engine, then stronger and closer. Rayan raised his weapon as the forest ahead parted. Figures emerged, tall, armored, and alien, not cloaked like the ones before. These were hunters, warriors with jagged helmets and red glow visors. Their bodies were covered in exo-bone armor, their weapons shaped like curved claws. 5 of them, marching slowly. No words. Rayan whispered, "Friends of yours?" Her reply was cold. "No, they are the ones who chained me." Rayan's finger hovered over the trigger. "Then we fight?" She didn't answer right away. She stepped forward. Instead, hands open. "Calm. No fight," she said loudly in her language. But the hunters kept walking. Rayan moved to her side. "They're not listening." "They don't need to," she replied. "They've already chosen." Suddenly, one of the hunters raised his clawed weapon, aimed directly at Rayan. Without thinking, the alien woman grabbed Rayan and spun him. Aside. The ground where he stood just seconds ago exploded with a pulse of red energy. Rayan hit the dirt hard. She stood over him, eyes glowing bright white now, her voice no longer gentle. "You attack him," she said to them. "You declare, Va." The leader stepped forward, unafraid. "You bonded with the outsider, he carries the mark," the hunter growled. "You have broken the sacred code." Rayan stood up, brushing dirt off. "I'm right here," he said loudly. "You want me? Come take me." The other hunters raised their weapons. Then the woman whispered something Rayan didn't understand, but the sky answered. A loud crack echoed through the air. The wind stopped completely. The trees leaned outward. Then from behind the cabin, a blast of blue light shot upward, straight into the sky like a beacon. Rayan's heart pounded. "What did you do?" "I called the bond," she said. "You're not alone anymore." Before the hunters could respond, the earth beneath them glowed with a strange pattern, the same spiral light Rayan had seen near his home days ago. Then it burst. The ground exploded upward with energy. One hunter was thrown into the air, crashing into a tree. The others staggered back, their armor sparking. Rayan stared in shock. He hadn't seen her touch anything, hadn't seen her move. She turned to him. "You still carry the crystal's breath, it protects you now." The hunters growled, regrouping. Their leader pointed at her. "You chose death." But she only smiled, cold and fearless now. "No," she said. "I chose freedom, and I chose him." She raised her arm, and the glowing lines on Rayan's body lit up again. The mark on his hand flared. It hurt, but it felt like fire rushing through his blood. Suddenly, he could feel her thoughts, not words, but feelings. Fury, courage, sadness, power. He didn't know how, but he understood her, and she understood him. Together, they attacked. Rayan fired. She moved like lightning. One hunter fell, then another. But the leader was fast. He charged with a massive blade glowing red-hot. He lunged for Rayanne, but the alien woman stepped in between, blocking with her bare hand. The blade stopped inches from her chest, frozen in air by an invisible force. Her voice shook the ground. "You chained me once, but no chain holds me now." The energy from her palm blasted outward, sending the hunter flying backward, armor cracking. Rayanne stood frozen, breathless. She turned to him, chest rising, eyes glowing brighter than ever. "They'll return," she said, "in greater numbers." Rayanne nodded slowly. "Then we prepare." She looked at him. "You're not afraid?" "I am," he said honestly. "But I'm with you now." She stepped closer, placing her hand over the mark on his arm. "Then the bond is complete." The forest was no longer silent. Smoke rose between the trees. The air was thick with ash and tension. What was once a quiet place full of hidden life now burned beneath orange skies. Rayanne stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the flames rise in the distance. Trees cracked and fell one by one, their glowing trunks collapsing like old bones. The hunters had returned, this time with fire. He tightened the straps on his gear. The mark on his hand still pulsed with a dull blue light, reminding him of the bond, of her. She stood beside him now, calm as always, her white hair blowing in the heated wind. Her silver eyes reflected the flames but showed no fear. "They want to erase me," she said. Rayanne didn't look away from the fire. "They want to erase both of us." Hours earlier, they had found the first warning. 3 animals, small forest creatures, lay dead near the cabin. No wounds, no blood. Just frozen mid-step, their eyes wide open. The ground around them was scorched in perfect circles. Then came the humming, deep, mechanical, from above. Rayanne ran outside and saw ships, hunter ships, descending through the clouds like metal fangs. They were fast and quiet, no longer hunting, but hunting to destroy. By the time he and the alien woman packed what they could, the flames had already started. They didn't run. They headed toward the fire. Now they waited. "They think fire will trap us," Rayanne said. "Smoke us out like animals." She shook her head. "They don't understand what you are now." He turned to her. "What am I now?" She stepped closer and touched the lines glowing on his arm. "You are marked. Your heart spoke for me when no one else did. That changes you." Rayanne glanced at the trees burning in the distance. "I didn't want to be a hero." "You're not," she replied. "You're something harder. You're a choice they can't control." Just then the ground shook. A loud blast echoed through the sky. One of the hunter ships had dropped something, a heat bomb. It landed deeper in the forest, exploding into a wave of blue fire that turned everything it touched into ash. Rayanne shielded his eyes. The alien woman stood still, staring at the blaze. She whispered, "They want to turn the forest into a grave. They hope the fire will cover what they've done." Rayanne looked at her. "Can we stop them?" She reached into her robe and pulled out a shard of the old crystal, broken but still glowing. "I couldn't control the full crystal," she said. "It had to be split. Half stayed with you, the other with me." Rayanne nodded. "And if we use them together?" She looked at him. "We make a storm." Rayanne followed her as she walked calmly into the burning woods. The heat was unbearable. The smoke stung his eyes, but she didn't flinch. At the heart of the fire they stopped. Above them hovered a hunter ship scanning the ground, ready to drop another bomb. "Now," she said. Together, they raised their hands, each holding a crystal shard. Blue and white energy erupted from their palms, spinning in a wild circle between them. The ground cracked, wind rushed in from all sides, and then lightning, not from the sky, but from the bond. It struck the ship above, tearing through metal like paper. The ship spun wildly, alarms blaring, then crashed into the trees with a scream of flame. Rayanne fell to his knees, breathless. What was that? The alien woman stood tall, her eyes brighter than ever. That, she said, was the Bond's answer, but more ships were coming. 5. Maybe more. Each carried fire. Each carried death. Rayanne stood. We can't stop all of them. No, she said, but we can show them. We're not afraid to burn. She turned to him, reached out her hand. This forest was my prison once, now let it be my battlefield. Rayanne took her hand. Their marks flared together. One last time. And with the fire closing in, they stood side by side. Not running. Not begging. Fighting. The forest had stopped burning. The wind had gone still again. The smoke had cleared. What remained was silence. And ash. Rayanne stood at the edge of the blackened battlefield, his shirt torn, his arms bruised, and his eyes full of firelight. Behind him, the forest was gone, just twisted stumps and glowing coals. But the hunters were gone too. Their last ship had crashed into the cliffs after a final blast of light from the bonded crystals. No more bombs, no more war cries. Only him and her. The alien woman walked slowly toward him, her silver robe singed, her hair filled with ash, but her eyes as bright as starlight. You survived, she said softly. Rayanne gave a tired smile. You sound surprised. I'm not, she said. The bond wouldn't let you die. He looked at his arm. The glowing mark was fading now, like an old flame going to sleep. It's leaving me. She nodded. The bond protected you for what needed to happen. Now it gives you back your will. Rayanne felt strange, empty but peaceful. So it's over? No, she said. It begins now. They walked to the place where it all started, the tree where she had been chained. It still stood, though. The flames had licked its sides. Its bark was cracked and black, but not broken. Rayanne looked up at the old branches. I hate this tree, he said. She didn't answer. She stepped closer and placed her hand against the trunk. And then something unbelievable happened. The tree began to glow, not with fire, but with soft green-blue light. The black bark peeled away like old skin. Leaves began to grow from the branches, fresh and silver like moonlight. Rayanne stepped back. What is this? She turned to him, voice calm. This tree is not just wood. It is a marker. It holds memory. A memory of your pain? He asked. She shook her head. A memory of your choice. From behind the tree, a hidden panel opened, a doorway in the roots. A staircase led down into the earth. Rayanne looked at her, shocked. There was something under here this whole time? She nodded. It is why they chained me here. Not because I was dangerous, but because this was. They descended together, the stairs glowing as they stepped. The room below was wide and round, lit with a soft golden light. In the center floated a sphere of crystal larger than a human head. Inside it, Rayanne saw shapes, stars, lines, ancient languages. It's a map, he whispered. She smiled faintly. Not just a map. A seed. A seed of what? She stepped close to it and placed her hand on the glass. A new world. Rayanne listened as she finally told him the truth. Her people once ruled across systems, but they grew proud, greedy. When she was born, her DNA carried a spark, a rare link to ancient technology that could awaken lost power. But instead of guiding her, the leaders feared her, so they chained her, hid her in the forest, left her to die. But you, she said, turning to him, you did something no one else did. You stopped and saw me, not as a weapon, not as a thing, but as a person. Rayanne looked down, feeling the weight of it all. I just couldn't leave you there. She stepped forward and took his hand. That was your gift to me, she said. Now let me give you mine. She leaned close. For the first time, she whispered her true name into his ear. A name he couldn't repeat. but somehow understood. It wasn't just a sound, it was a vow. They left the chamber together. The tree sealed behind them. In the days that followed, they rebuilt. Not the forest, not the ruins, but something simpler. A home. And though the bond no longer glowed on Ryan's arm, something far stronger remained. A choice. A connection. A quiet love, born from chains, fire, and freedom.